With the Mini-Jarraff, safety is top priority. So we want to ensure whenever we're operating the Mini-Jarraff, we have full PPE, that's hard hat, high-vis vest, safety glasses on at all times. To aid us in our safety features, we've programmed this remote to be sure that the bystanders, anybody working around the machine is safe, that the machine is safe, most importantly, operator is safe. The number one thing is you, the operator. When you are running this machine, we can do as much as possible, but at the end of the day, it's you taking those safety steps and precautions and being sure that everything is safely laid out, that you have a good plan in front of you, and you're operating the machine in such fashion. So with the remote, we have 3 joysticks on the remote. The 2 outer joysticks would be your boom operation. So everything from lifting to extending, turning of the saw head, raising and lowering of the boom. And right in the center, you'll see an emergency stop. If anything happens, if you're close to something, you see some dangerous conditions starting to occur, if you hit that button, that's going to kill the machine, that's going to kill the remote, so that nothing happens, and then assess the situation and move forward. Your center joystick is all of your drive functions, so that's forward and reverse, left and right. This center joystick also, if you hold this toggle switch up, that is what we call our auto or manual leveling. And what that is exactly, if you have it in automatic mode, the center of the machine is going to stay vertical forward, fore and aft, and side to side. So if you're ever operating on terrain, it's always going to continually be vertical. And that only occurs when that boom is all the way down in the boom rest. For instance, if you have the boom and you're half extended, that auto leveling function is going to shut off. And that's a predetermined safety preference. So we don't want the machine doing anything that you don't expect it to do. For instance, if you're working next to an electrical line and you move the machine while the boom's in the air, we don't want the machine to counteract and create a potential hazard. So we're sure when that boom is down is the only time that this machine will auto level. You also have a high and a low speed drive function with the machine. So when you're working, you want it in low speed. That'll give you the most torque to the wheels, the most control of the machine as you're moving around. But if you have to track this machine across the yard or a wide expanse of land, or run it just point A to point B in the fastest fashion, you have a high speed available, and that high speed is a little bit more than a brisk walking pace. The leg widening feature on the Mini-Jarraff is controlled with this toggle. It has an in and out function, and what that is that's widening or out, or in as in narrowing, and that can bring you all the way to 10'6" wide, all the way down to 44 inches wide. Now the machine, with its safeguard control system and how we have that controlling the machine, it's going to limit the amount of wheel width as compared to if you're on a slope or your boom height, essentially. And so you can get down to that 44-inch width in the front, but your rear legs may stay as wide as 70 inches to create stability for the machine. But it's automatically going to calculate all that for you. You don't have to think about that. You can just run those legs in as far as you need. But most of the time, you want to be sure that you're running this machine as wide as possible at all times. That's going to give you the best, the best agility, the best stance. Being that this machine does not have outriggers, when you run them as wide as possible, you're going to have the best stability when you're cutting. Now, if you're running this machine and you're not fully widened with the wheels, you will have a limited lifting height, and that's for safety. Once again, our safeguard control system is controlling the machine. It's not going to let you put it into a scenario that might create a potential hazard. We want to be sure everybody's safe, so we don't want this machine in a position where it's going to be a potential rollover hazard. So we want to be sure that The legs are as wide as possible when we're operating it, and that just creates the best work environment. Your saw blade is also controlled on the remote here with a simple on and off switch. Now this is a safety toggle, so you do have to pull up on the safety switch and flick it into on. That will turn your saw on. Once you have the machine on, you can control the engine by starting, stopping, or running right on the remote. So you can be away from the machine and still controlling it with quite a bit of control there. If you're ever in auto idle or auto RPM, or a horsepower management system, if you switch the machine into manual, you're also able to control your engine RPMs off of this switch. Now, built into this remote, we have a tilt sensor, a trip sensor. And what that is if you're an operator, and let's say for some reason you fall down, you trip, that remote gets shaken or tilts side to side out of a specified range, what it's going to do is it's going to essentially cut the link between the remote and the machine. That's going to stop the machine dead in its tracks. It's not going to shut off the engine though. All your functions, all your controls on the remote will be dead. It's essentially the same thing as hitting the emergency stop button, but the engine's still going to be running. Our remote also has a timeout feature, and what that is it shows, it monitors the remote, and if there's a predetermined time of inactivity, you're not using the controls, it's naturally going to time the remote out. And that's going to kill the link between the machine and the remote, but not shut off the engine. When you're operating the machine, the operator should be 10 feet behind the boom in a semicircle. You always want to stay behind the boom and always be watching for the tires. When you're behind the boom, it gives you a good line of sight to what you're trimming or pruning, along with keeping you out of harm's way. You're not in drop zones. It is all right to have the machine not running, walk around to the front to look at a cut you need to make, but then be sure that before operating the machine at all, you're behind the boom, and that's again a 10-foot semicircle behind the boom. When you are operating it, when you're in the tree and you're performing some pruning or trimming activities, the correct way to be trimming is you don't actually want to be coming down at a chopping motion. You want to actually extend through all of your cuts. Because our machine has a rotating saw head, if that saw head is at a 45-degree angle and you try to come down through a branch or through whatever you're trimming, it has a natural tendency to want to push the blade to the side. So you always want to extend through your cut, because that way not only will your cut quality be better, but you also, when you do extend through it, the boom won't have a tendency to jump around on you. Whenever you're in a cut, you never want to turn your saw head while you're in a cut. That's going to do damage to the saw blade and to the saw head itself. When you are extending into a cut, just be sure you're never moving the boom up or down. You just want to be extending through the cuts you're about to make.